I don't care how old I get. A Totino's party pizza will always fuck. Not sponsored, by the way.
Hey, fun fans. Hope you're in for a cockadoodie dirty birdie time today on We Enjoy. Main event, we're doing Misery today. Eric, do you know that Misery is a fucking great movie?
I did know that, but
Wow, okay. I
it
was
was great to relive
I was
it.
hoping to be the one to break it to you, but apparently you knew that already, and I have egg all over my face, my cockadoodie face. We have the Mattitude Eric. I'm Matt Fowler. Say hello, Eric Goldman.
I'll say it shotgun, gonna talk misery, gonna
Do the jerk, baby.
do the jerk, Annie.
Do the jerk,
Hello.
Annie. So yeah, we're gonna do Misery in today's main event. I guess we could just dig into it a little bit right now, rather than saving it till later. Which is that we've talked about it on the podcast previously, and we always said, "Hey, we should do that. We should do that." And we're finally doing it. We're doing the horror goes full Hollywood, goes full prestige, gets big name directors, A-list actors, and for this sort of this pocket dimension of the '90s when horror was basically marquee A-listing movies instead of sort of the shunned, exiled, often ignored, and sort of like looked down upon
Yeah.
genre of movie that it had been since its inception. But basically, Silence of the Lambs opened the doors in a big way. Timing wise, obviously, movies have to be in production way before Silence of the Lambs like clean sweeps the Oscars. But
Yeah.
everything just sort of landed for about 5 years or so. You would get people like Harrison Ford and Tom Cruise, and Harrison Ford would come way later, but like Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese directing a thriller / horror movie, and Kenneth Branagh, who had was known for Shakespeare and like much sort of, you could say, loftier things, doing Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And you would also get like the authors' names too: Bram Stoker's Dracula, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, in the titles of these movies. So
Well, I mean, that was Mary Shelley's Frankenstein was named that because they wanted to be as big a hit as Bram Stoker's Dracula.
I'm
So,
saying, yeah,
yeah. Um,
Mary Shelley's Frankenstein came after Bram Stoker, but
yeah, and was not as successful or as well received. But no, there's a pretty straight line here. I mean, again, like you're saying, it's like these movies, some of them were already in the works, of course, but you just see the trajectory. We're going in chronological order with the ones we're going to do, and it's just like, yeah, the fact that Misery comes out and Kathy Bates is nominated for and wins an Oscar, the only Stephen King movie to ever have an Oscar-winning actor in it. Performance, I should say. There's other actors and other things that just didn't win it for Stephen King. But anyway, that wins Best Actress, and then the next year, Silence of the Lambs comes out and kind of sweeps the Oscars and gets all the big ones. Yeah, it just kind of set a tone that maybe was never replicated quite like that again. But yes, that all these other filmmakers and actors were kind of like, deciding this was a realm that they were willing to work in, because suddenly it was kind of on a different playing field.
yeah. So we're going to be doing. I forgot to count. We're doing 5 of these, I
I think
think.
6, maybe
6, yeah, because there's some good ones to
I
revisit
mean,
here.
we had a really long list that we had to pare down, just to not have this be like a super long series. But
So
yeah.
yeah, to start, it's interesting because Misery was high
No, we're doing
profile.
7, Matt. We
Yeah,
won't name them yet, but we're doing
yeah.
7 of these.
Misery was sort of high profile because of Rob Reiner. Like, James Caan was an established actor who'd been, been in a lot of things for decades, but he wasn't like a star. You know what I mean? Like somebody who puts asses
He
in
had a
seats.
very quiet 80s. I was thinking about this because it was like I always
Like
knew that
Alien Nation.
Alien Nation was the only high profile thing he'd done in years, and it wasn't like that was a huge hit. And it's funny because he was like the 10th actor they went to. A lot bigger names turned this down.
Oh yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
James Caan. This was the second thing I'd seen him in, because I've seen Alien Nation, but I hadn't seen The Godfather. And so it's like, yeah, he wasn't like a presence in 80s movies for you and I who went to see every 80s movie. He was not someone who we would see a lot.
He's also not someone who's like usually the lead in a movie per se,
No.
except like since the '70s at least. So He
Well,
wasn't.
and
I'm just
Thief
saying
was
he
what,
wasn't a
81?
draw.
Yeah, Thief was 81. But then, yeah, very quick. He didn't even do that many movies in the 80s. But Rob Reiner, White Hot. We'll talk more about Rob Reiner's amazing streak of movies, but also, Stephen King, White Hot, because we're coming off a decade of so many successful adaptations, and the fact that Misery,
including one by Rob Reiner already.
Yeah. But the fact that Misery was very quick, 3 years after the book came out, this movie comes out. And that kind of shows you both that this book was very well received, but also that Stephen King was just at a place where it was like, get that movie made, that the turnaround was happening that quickly to get an adaptation produced.
And then Kathy Bates, not, had been doing movies, but mostly relatively unknown. But then after this, and now, especially after winning Best Actress for her performance as Annie Wilkes, absolutely her career skyrocketed, and I feel like she was in every movie that in the 90s following this. But
many.
But yeah, so we'll do Misery, and then next week we'll just get it out of the way right now. We're doing The Silence of the Lambs because Eric already said we're kind of going in order. So, but then after that, you'll have to guess. You'll have to make
because again, like we said, we had like 12, and we pared it down to 7. There was still some hard cuts to make, but yeah, there was some things we had to skip that maybe one day we'll revisit. Who knows? Who's to say?
Who is to say, Eric?
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of hard cuts, I love the Depeche Mode show. I went and saw my first time seeing them in San Antonio this past weekend. Did they cut some songs I wish they played? Of course, but that's when you realize that the band you're going to see has like literally 20 songs that are all hits, and they're not going to play all of them, especially if they play 4 or 5 off their new album, and they have to make some hard choices. But yeah, it was really great. Most expensive concert tickets I've ever bought. Thank you, Ticketmaster, for your gouging your prices these years. But yeah, there were floor seats that we had, and it was absolutely worth it. But I am amused so much now at, after Depeche Mode, which Depeche Mode is a hugely popular band who can do world tours and go to so many different countries all over the world and have legions of fans globally. But no one was complaining, like the fans, we could have equally as complained about like buying these tickets at gouged prices as the Taylor Swift and Beyonce fans who found out just like a month or two later afterwards. But then it made news because it was Taylor Swift and Beyonce. Nobody said a peep when it was Depeche Mode. But I'm amused now that it's Robert Smith of The Cure, who we were fortunate enough to see actually in the European leg of their new tour last year when we were in Germany. And I'm so thankful we saw it there because we paid normal ticket prices at their normal arena to see this show. Obviously, excluding airfare, we didn't fly to the country just to see The Cure, because then it would have evened out with what charging tickets here. That would have been America.
Ticketmaster prices. Yeah.
But Robert Smith, after Beyonce, after Taylor Swift, Robert Smith is the one who is vocally and publicly battling Ticketmaster and calling them out on what's happening. And he's literally found 7,000 tickets. I don't know if it's him personally doing the Batman detective work here, but they found like 7,000 tickets on secondary scalper sites that they've nullified, and like the proceeds go to Amnesty International, basically. Like, and everything they put into their notices now say, please don't buy tickets unless you're planning on coming. Like they're doing everything they can. He actually got Ticketmaster to issue refunds to people because of their ridiculous fees. It's crazy that he's the one doing this right now. But yeah,
I mean, Taylor
nobody
Swift
should have to pay.
She was very vocal as well, because her thing was so specific, which was the pre-sale. That was like, because she's, because of the level she's at, that it was like the pre-sale where like too many tickets were being released that weren't supposed to be, and on top of that, the exorbitant prices, but the fact that nothing worked. Did she
get Ticketmaster to issue refunds?
I do not believe so.
Well, then but I don't guess who wins? Guess who's actually our pop princess?
Now, we talked about. I mean, I might have talked to you about it 20 years ago, but I don't know if I talked on this podcast about. So I saw Depeche Mode in concert about 20 years ago. And it's funny because I saw them at Staples Center, crypto.com arena, which I went to last week and hate that, but Staples. Anyway, I was working at the warehouse at the time, and my coworker cool hot chick with cool hot chick short hair.
Working in a record shop.
Working at a record shop, being cool and hot. She had Depeche
like,
Mode.
I made you a mixtape. Yeah.
She was going to see Depeche Mode with a friend who bailed on her. And so she started asking, hey, does anyone want to go to this show with me? And she asked me, but it's like, I love Depeche Mode, but I'm not at a, like, we'll spend a lot of money at a concert level for them. And especially 20 years ago when I was dirt poor. And so I said no, but she couldn't get anyone to buy the tickets. So she gave it to me. I saw for free Depeche Mode. In retrospect,
she gave it to you. She could have given it to anyone at that point if she was just going to give it away.
Maybe I seemed like the person who most actually cared.
You're like, oh. Yeah. But as far as old songs go for Depeche Mode, like before Music for the Masses, they did play Just Can't Get Enough, and I feel like they had to because of Cocaine Bear. But it's funny because in the recent interviews,
this is featured in Cocaine Bear.
So and then a big picture of Cocaine Bear appears behind them on screen.
That'd be so good.
But in the interviews they've been doing for the new album, hosts invariably will ask them, it's like, hey, have you heard your song on Last of Us? Have you heard your song on Cocaine Bear? And it's just funny how music licensing goes, because it's kind of like, we all have this idea that artists are the ones who like dip their quill in an inkwell and sign off on their songs because it's a project they believe in, when they're really like, no, we had no idea it was in Cocaine Bear, like, and then when it's described to them, they're like, oh, that sounds hilarious.
Yeah, we give us a 10. Yeah, the who controls it is so different. I mean, there used to be cases that were very specific, like we knew, for many years it was very well known that Led Zeppelin had veto power on their songs being used in movies and TV show, and would notoriously say no to almost every single thing. Right. That's changed, and it's been in a lot of things in the past, 15
and then they're like,
years.
you know what? How about Thor? And they're like,
right. That Cameron Crowe got an exception because he'd, literally like been a 15-year-old writing about them for Rolling Stone, so he got their song.
No, he wrote about Stillwater, Eric.
Yeah,
and their hit smash Fever Dog,
right? But yes, so we hear about those exceptions of the bands who have veto power, but yeah, most of the time it's just like, we and
then Dave
let it go into the ether.
Was like, yeah, I tried to stay up and watch Last of Us, and I fell asleep. But then when I woke up, our song was playing. So yeah, he slept through the pilot, but he made it to his song part, so that was good. And I just like the idea of old man Gahan like falling asleep in front of TV, because you know what? Same. Dave and I are the same.
Hey, I'll promote that on the next day or two we'll be running on Fandom a video that we did at the WrestleMania week in the junkets they did with SmackDown and Raw stars, where we were asking them like kind of what's your current like pop culture obsession, and many of them named The Last of Us.
Good. I know that Stone Cold, when he was doing a few interviews for certain things, mentioned that too.
And then, two people that we know were big gamers, Shayna and Dakota, they specifically talked about the games as well, since they are big fans of it all. And they like to go, bloop, 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 bloop. That's me at the controller.
But man, yeah, it was a great show, and I cried multiple times and heard some of my favorite songs.
How many times did Matt cry? That's going to be our new.
I cried during Walking in My Shoes, which is my favorite Depeche Mode song. I cried during Cocaine Bear. I cried during In Your Room. I cried during Waiting for the Night, when it was just Martin and Dave singing, and with keyboard accompaniment, sort of a stripped down, I want to say acoustic, but it wasn't acoustic, version of that. So yeah, multiple times. And great time at the old AT&T Center in San Antonio, and great vegan restaurant there called Vegan Avenue. So you can rock on down to Vegan
Avenue. We're gonna rock it down,
and then you take it higher,
Vegan Avenue.
And then we take it higher. Who's that guy? Eddie, what's his name? Eddie Grant. The guy who sang Electric Avenue. Yeah. Is it Eddie Grant? Is it Eddie Haskell? Was it Eddie Brock?
It was Ed Harris. I don't know. Was Ed Harris?
I feel like it was Eddie Grant. I'm looking this up now. Electric Avenue. And I always wondered if it was about Electric Avenue in Venice. In Venice down there's an Electric Avenue.
Sure.
So I didn't know if it was
You
an
say
actual
that.
place or like Electric Avenue.
State of mind.
The state of mind.
The song refers to Electric Avenue in London, Matt.
Oh, whatever. At least
and to the 1981 Brixton riot in the Brixton district of the city.
I didn't really want to know what it was about. I wanted to postulate about it.
I'd prefer to think it's about that.
I didn't know if it was supposed to be like Electro City from Wet Hot American Summer. Like it's in your heart or it's a state of mind.
All possible.
All right. Let's get into some entertainment news here. Let's do the quickest one first, which is that this morning was announced the cast for Maxine, which is spelled with 3 X's. And it's the third in the Ty West Pearl X trilogy. I guess it's just the X trilogy at this point. What a interesting, just a really original, interesting horror franchise, and the way it's sort of come about we've already talked about it, but how the prequel was just filmed during, it was sort of pandemic, accidentally pandemic driven as far as like how they made these movies. Because of their location and the reusing of sets and stuff like that, and how they've made very good movies so far, very different movies, whereas X is sort of like a slasher movie, and Pearl, its prequel, is still a kind of a horror movie, but it's more of a character study. It's very much character focused and centric about the story of this young woman, which is a movie. I like Pearl way more than I liked X, but I like Pearl way more. I thought it was fantastic. One of my
I wouldn't say way more. I think I like Pearl more, but I don't know. I love them both. I really love them both.
And I'm also of the mind that you can watch most every other time, 99.9% of every time. I always say you watch prequels in the orders that they came out. They are meant to be seen after events that have happened, or you know what I mean? Like prequels are meant to be seen after. They're not meant to, You're not meant to view things.
They're dramatically, they usually play better in the order they were released. Yeah.
Right. I think you can watch Pearl before X, though. I think it would make for an actual more interesting watch.
I think it would work. I don't know if it'd be more interesting, but I think it totally works. Like I think you're totally fine watching Pearl first.
So Maxine is the third in this, and it follows the Maxine character played by Mia Goth in X as she goes into the world of 80s porn. And they announced the cast today, which, of course, obviously Mia Goth is there, but then also Elizabeth Debicki, Michelle Monaghan, Bobby Cannavale, Lily Collins, Halsey, Giancarlo Esposito, and Kevin Bacon. And who's Moses Sumney?
I don't. He's the only person I didn't recognize. I see he's a singer-songwriter like Halsey. So there's a couple of musical performers in here. But what a leveling up. I mean, the cast of the other two movies are great, but just as far as like high profile is concerned, I mean, because X has a lot of recognizable actors. Again, we've got pre-Wednesday Jenna Ortega, but Martin Henderson, Brittany Snow were in a lot of things, and Kid Cudi was the musician that would be very well known. But no one was like a quote unquote movie star in that movie. And then Pearl was, pretty much like a local New Zealand cast with Mia Goth. So it's funny that this movie has like a lot of very recognizable people.
Yeah, Michelle Monaghan,
two MCU actors are in this movie.
Giancarlo,
3, because Kevin Bacon plays himself. I was
going to say Kevin Bacon is Kevin Bacon in the MCU.
Yes.
He doesn't even get to play like an Eternal or something like that. He's Kevin Bacon. 2 are Guardians related. I'm trying to see the third one. Who else is?
Bobby Cannavale from first 2 Ant-Mans.
Oh, that's right. He's the cop. Yeah. What, is he still? Are they still together? We didn't know because we didn't follow up. I'm saying
they were still together. They were still. He had a good relationship,
right? In Quantumania.
Well, just in general, like your mom, so Judy Greer's mentioned, and I guess he would be by osmosis by being her husband,
unless they split up. As my saying, we didn't get an update on that.
I think they're fine, but I mean Esposito and Bacon, and just like a lot of high profile people in this movie.
My point would be, why wouldn't she call him to get her out of jail? Because he's a cop. They split up. Is my point.
All right.
Judy Greer dumped Bobby Cannavale.
I think they're all fine. But I'm very excited for this movie. This series has been such a sort of delightful surprise that the way, the first 2 movies, the insanity of them filming secretly the prequel, and now we're getting a third one. Fairly quick after. It can't live up to how quickly we got Pearl.
No, it can't.
They have to make this movie.
Made it to the end. Well, that's the thing. You made it to the end of X, and they announced Pearl, and they were like coming soon. In a few months. Pearl was so fucking good. X was a piece of shit, but Pearl was amazing. I'm kidding. It wasn't a piece of shit.
Take that back.
I can't. I already said it. It's out there. It's on a podcast. That means it's do your own research.
No lies on podcasts.
No lies ever. All right. I said that was going to be the quickest news story. I lied. It took a while, but here's some big time news coming to us from Warner Brothers and HBO Max, which is that they are in talks to do a TV series, I guess an HBO Max series, not even for HBO. It's supposed to just be for HBO Max. Adaptation of the Harry Potter books, which is what the movies were. Yes, you are correct. They were an adaptation of that, but obviously as a series with the intention of each season being a book, you will get more in depth. You will get, you would assume you'd get storylines and characters that were cut from the pages of the books because, you have to cut things for movies because of the runtime. And yeah, everything will just be played differently, and then we won't even get into the recasting of all the characters and stuff like that. But this is just, their talks are happening right now. Nothing has been signed, sealed, or delivered at this point. But
no, Bloomberg broke the news, but then multiple outlets confirmed that they're in advanced talks about this. So yeah, it's not a done deal, but that this is something that is actively being developed. It's funny because we knew. I mean, from the moment they announced HBO Max, it's they're going to want to do a Potter series, a Potter universe series. And yes, I always thought one day they'll probably adapt the books again, but I always thought that would be way down the line. But obviously a lot of things have changed, and it's the Fantastic Beasts series being a dud. And then of course, I'm not skipping over this. It is important, but the J.K. Rowling of it all. But then also you've got the Zaslav of it all, as far as what's a sure thing? It's okay, this one sort of spin-off prequel didn't work. Well, we could do other spin-offs. Fuck it. Just adapt the books. Just do the thing that everyone loves.
And had it not been for, and basically Spider-Man crawled so this could walk, had it not been for Spider-Man being rebooted so soon after a trilogy had already happened, and we had already sort of been primed and readied for something like this, because everyone's movies are, they're still from the last decade, technically. Yeah. Basically it's kind of like why it hasn't, if the Fantastic Beasts movies had done gangbusters, this still was probably 4 or 5 years away.
This would happen eventually.
This would have happened still sooner than you think. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Well,
it's happening right now.
I wonder, because there's also the whole there was always, of course, hey, won't they try to make Cursed Child has probably a couple movies and get the original cast
back.
Original
people, yeah.
And that's where I almost think the J.K. Rowling thing might come into play the most, because obviously there's a lot to say about her and how much she is ruining the brand, but also it's if those actors never seem like they were super hyped to come back, but never say never, and still never say never. It's not like it can still never happen, but right now, especially with the way J.K. Rowling is acting and everything happening with her, I could see it even being more of a hurdle, and they're not going to do Cursed Child without them as a movie, because that would be very bad look.
So this is what I feel like. Obviously, Rowling and her anti-trans rhetoric is just deplorable and despicable on every level, and everyone has the right to make the choice about separating the art from the creator, the originator of these of this world, and the writer of these books. And I was I don't want to contribute money to her. I don't want her to earn money because I'm paying for something for whether I'm paying to see this series or any of the buying a Blu-ray of Harry Potter or buying Hogwarts Legacy. But I feel like when it comes to Harry Potter, and having just been to Universal Orlando and the Harry Potter, the Hogsmeade there and the Diagon Alley there and stuff like that, there's still a huge global fandom for this series that is completely separate. And I feel like they have been in most cases, fans have been able to separate their love of Harry Potter and its messaging, its ultra positive messaging that seems to fly directly in the face of everything Rowling is having out now. Because she sounds like Death Eaters that she made the villains in her story rather than heroes. So, and with the actual people like Daniel Radcliffe and the stars of the show, like coming out of the movies, coming out against her and recognizing the trans community and recognizing the LGBTQ community and saying things where it's like, we realize that this series has helped people in these arenas and has helped inclusivity and made people feel like they belong and given them stories to latch onto in dark times and like inspiration and stuff like that, that there's a much more positive going on than a negative. And Rowling is sort of this weird separate entity, like a dragon just blowing flames off of the top of her mountain in the distance. And I've always said, and I think I said it on the podcast once, which is like, when you have billions of dollars, it doesn't, honestly, at that point, it doesn't matter. Obviously, look, sometimes all we can do in this world to have power is to withhold our money. That's kind of the only way that we can protest and get change done is with, the spending of or not spending of money. But what are you going to do? Give her another billion? I don't think people realize how much a billion is. It doesn't need any more money. And if you give her somehow another billion on top of the billions she already has, it almost doesn't matter. That's how much a billion is. It like the difference between 2 and 3 billion is negligible. So it's like once you reach a certain amount of money, more money doesn't matter. That's where I stand anyway. But like Hogwarts Legacy sold 12 million units in its first 2 weeks. Like it doesn't like she is not hurting. I don't know. There are many different factors that could have hurt the Fantastic Beasts movies. I think the second movie hurt that series more than J.K. Rowling ever did.
Yes. Yeah. It's hard because, it's like there's so many people like that I completely like on their side, like on the moral ground here. Like I think that J.K. Rowling clearly turns out to have like absolute trash beliefs and how both depressing and maddening that is. Now, I also think sometimes I see people, rhetoric on social media, who are, saying things like, oh, she torpedoed the entire brand. It's toxic. No one wants to touch it. And I'm like you just said, go to Wizarding World. It's packed.
That's not true at all.
The video game sold like gangbusters. Yes, the Fantastic Beasts movies weren't successful, but it's not true that the Harry Potter brand is dead. And, the other thing is, right now, kids are reading them because parents are introducing to them. And also, and this because I've mentioned this before, I get the defense mechanism of why it happens. So I get frustrated by this person turned out to be trash, so I'm now going to say that everything that they ever did was horrible and it wasn't good. I get why it happens, and it's ultimately the trash person's fault that we're even having this conversation. But I don't subscribe to, guess what? The Harry Potter books were always actually bad. They're great. And the characters are great. Now that being said, I'm not telling people they should absolutely watch this show. Of course not. Everyone has to decide what they want to do for themselves. Right. But I will also say this, that as much as there's certainly a super cynical side to this show happening, that yes, in a world where Fantastic Beasts was a huge hit and Cursed Child was actively happening, that this would be something that would be way down the line, I think, that it's happening quicker because they're just like, what's a more surefire thing? But I'll also say, by the time, if this happens, which it sounds likely, but if this happens, we're not getting the first season of the show till like 2026, if that. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone will be a 25-year-old movie by the time that this show would premiere.
Right.
And it will actually have been quite a while. And in this day and age, it's different because these expanded universes, things like stay around a lot longer. But movies getting a remake 25 years later used to be very typical, sometimes a lot shorter turnaround between them. And also, because I think these books were great, I think they can make a great TV show. There's a lot, if you had the right creator and all that, everything's there to make a great TV show. All that, but God damn it, J.K. Rowling, for making it all so freaking complicated.
I just feel like
don't be shitty.
If the Harry Potter books are a really bad argument held any water at all, it would, you'd see the decline in fandom. but they're not, because they're great, and they're still stories that parents feel safe introducing their kids to.
Right.
And the movies, having movie nights with their kids and showing them, because they're it's the rare franchise featuring kids, where we watch these kids grow up on screen that grew up alongside its fans.
Yeah.
That as the movies themselves became more mature and the stakes grew higher, as they aged appropriately into that type of, like, the genre that the kids that age would watch, right? So it all works out. No other news besides the fact that they're considering it at this point, and the shape of it being like one season per book and so on. But yeah, interesting to say that it will be very popular, just like Rings of Power were, which is like, who wants a Lord of the Rings prequel series? These fandoms are massive, and don't get swayed by a few.
I mean, and also again, the show will live or die by how actually good it is. But a lot of people will give it a shot. We'll watch, we'll check it out, and see what they think.
And that's the idea, right? Because
they don't even have to buy a movie ticket.
They're trying to drive people to HBO Max.
Right.
All right. In other sort of return news, interesting element.
One that doesn't have to be sullied by having really shitty beliefs by the creator.
Although, some people are, Scott Pilgrim has not escaped the look back. It's really problematic.
I know.
Through the is Scott Pilgrim really bad lens? That kind of thing. Yeah, I know.
I was looking at the response to this news story, which we'll mention in a second what it is, but I was looking at like the replies on like fandom's tweet and the quote tweets, and most of it was very excited, but one of them says, "Great day for the worst person you know." So it was like, not only is Scott Pilgrim bad, but everyone who likes it is bad too. So I'm bad.
Scott Pilgrim is awesome. Scott Pilgrim is a bad person, and the movie is about that. The movie embraces that, and again, it's one of those things where like there's a certain sect of moviegoer who doesn't think you can do movies with the central characters that are actually bad people,
there's a whole. I know we've snarked on this before, but there's a whole sect on social media of people who not only do they also don't think you can intentionally do a movie about a bad person. They think that you didn't realize it and the audience didn't realize it. Like,
it's accidental, and I'm here to point it out to you that they're actually bad and you think they're good. Man, I just want to pull out a whole bunch of like, they want to see Midnight Cowboy? Do they want to see Naked? Do they want to?
One of the more ridiculous
characters. What about Pearl? What about things
oh no, I know. I said social media, but it's not just that. There was an article, it got snarked on a bunch, rightfully so, but there was an article that was like, did you know that Jason Dean and Heathers is a really terrible person and you shouldn't be worshiping him? And I was like, yeah, I fucking knew that. Like,
we do that, but also the same reason people watch horror movies is to feel these feelings of anxiety and fear in a safe environment, and to play around with these sort of forbidden topics in a contained, escapable arena, right? Like, that's horror movie fandom is cathartic in ways for a lot of people. Even people who experience trauma will embrace their trauma in a certain way through horror or through movies or through anything like that. Like, not everyone, but it's a tool. It's interesting. And so is loving broken, horrible people in fiction.
Right.
Like in movies, books, television, like being grimly attracted to the bad boy or the broken, sad person, or the crazy person. Like, we have, like, it's a whole genre of romance, adventure, or any other. You know what I mean? Like, I'm saying, like, this is a safe way. If it bleeds into your real life decisions, that's a problem. Yes. But there's no issue in sort of having these and idolizing or being infatuated with these fictionalized shattered people, right? And because they are, again, self-awareness is key. Yes, we know JD is absolutely terrible and he's a psychopathic murderer, We get that, everyone.
Yeah.
Anyway, not to pile back on.
Well, no. Look here, I'll keep the tangent going for one more minute before we actually talk about the Scott Pilgrim news. Just to say that also, because like you're saying with horror movies, but Heather's not a horror movie, but it's like these movies that traffic in, movies about like either straight up villains or anti-heroes, and also the idea that they can be alluring, and especially for a movie character, you want them to be someone you want to spend time with, even if they're a terrible person. So like JD is supposed to be, I say in air quotes, cool and enticing to Veronica and enticing to us as movie audiences, even though he is ultimately supposed to be a bad person who she will reject his philosophies by the end of the movie. Now, you can't help like the Fight Club syndrome, which is to say how a lot of people were like, God, Fight Club's so good. I just hate the douchey guys who don't watch it, don't get the irony, who just buy into the Tyler Durden mantra and don't get that the end of the movie is not like, and that's why Tyler Durden was right. Like they leave out that part, the actual message of the movie. And yes, it sucks when that happens. But I also, I hate the people who do that, but I also hate the people who say, and that's why Tyler Durden shouldn't be a movie character, because some people will misinterpret it.
Yeah, you can't like stop making art just because of people's like, bad interpretations of it or wrong interpretations or false realizations, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so Scott Pilgrim. Scott Pilgrim is dating a high schooler, as the Scott Pilgrim movie
still
opens.
Dating a high schooler. We don't know.
Scott Pilgrim's still dating a high schooler. It's becoming an anime for Netflix,
and we knew that. Like we knew it was in development for a while, but not like the certainly this cast list.
But it's got like the cast. It's got everyone from that movie is except for Thomas Jane and Clifton. Cliff Curtis as the vegan police.
There is room for them to come back.
There is room, but they are not. I'm saying
no one is playing. They haven't been replaced. They're not on there.
Right, but I'm saying if there are 22 people in the movie and they've given us 20, it's weird.
I mean, they weren't part of the advertising for the movie, though. Everyone else was like promoted, so I think it's fine.
So Michael Cera, Mary Elizabeth Winstead is back, along with Allison Pill, Johnny Simmons, Mark Webber, who played Stephen Sills, Audrey Plaza. Okay, I'm not going to list everyone. Everyone's back. Ellen Wong.
But you love to list them.
I do. But that's coming later.
But both of the Marvel captains are back.
Yes. So we've got Chris Evans is back. We've got Romy Roy, Kieran Culkin is back. Yeah, and we've got Superman back, Brandon Routh, Mae Whitman, Jason Schwartzman.
Brie Larson. It's so this amazing cast, which was always a great cast, but obviously the profile of many of these actors has risen considerably since. It's very fun that they're all back. Look, I mean,
strangely enough, the vegan police, it says here, are being played by Giancarlo Esposito and Kevin Bacon.
Oh, okay, I'm in. Now, this movie, obviously, the cast always seemed to have a lot of affection for it. It was one of our lockdown live reads most of the cast was there to do a script when we were all stuck at home. Kieran Culkin, I remember, and Brie Larson weren't there, but almost everyone else was. They've always talked fondly of it. Everyone seems to love Edgar Wright when they work with him. And obviously being voices in an anime series is not the same as it's like this because we should mention, Scott Pilgrim, a very beloved cult movie, but a huge financial bomb when it came out because it cost way too much.
And a big example of something killing it at Comic-Con during a screening, and everyone having huge high hopes and they saying this is going to be huge. And then fizzling in the real world and, basically reminding us what a bubble Comic-Con is and how niche our interests actually are when compared to the rest of the movie-going public. So, yeah.
Yeah. But a great afterlife. People still talk about it. And so, no, they're not going to all be back for a new live-action sequel or streaming series. But, yeah, they're all going to do voice work in this series. Which, by the way, there was a lot of debate online about should this be called anime when it's from American, people behind it. But then people said, yes, it should be because they're actually having Japanese-based animation company, Saru, working on it.
It's kind of getting into the champagne argument where it's not champagne unless it's from a certain place.
But Edgar Wright producing along with Brian Lee O'Malley, the creator of the comic book. I don't think if we know yet, will it just readapt the comic and go past what the movie did? Will it be quote unquote a sequel to the movie. We don't know. But I am very
well, the fact that some of these characters died in the movie,
yes, but
I don't know
isn't
that
I
it could be
mean,
a sequel.
but
I'm just saying the
I
sequel
think
might be
there's
out the door.
no. But Matt, when they die, they turn into fucking coins. There's ways to bring them back.
It's still dead.
This
It's
movie
still
didn't.
dead.
This movie did not operate in real world logic. So I think that there's a. So this movie, I mean,
That's
I've
how
always
people die when I see them die. They just turn into coins.
I love Scott Pilgrim so much. I've watched it a million times. It's a comfort movie for me. I can just pop it on.
Yeah,
anytime
it's
makes me
another. It's
happy.
one that I put on in the background a lot, like just to have on.
Yeah, and it was one of my first. Again, living in California where our theaters were closed for over a year because of COVID, it was one of my first movies back because they did a re-release that got delayed because of COVID anniversary. It was supposed to be like the 10th anniversary release, but it ended up being the 11th anniversary release. So it was like, yeah, like maybe my third movie back in the theater, and it made me happy again.
Music to my ear holes.
Mm-hmm.
That is actually hilarious. All right, let's move on to well, no one really wrote in, but I'll just use this chance to plug if you want to hear Mr. Eric Goldman and myself talk about WrestleMania and wrestling. There is a new We Enjoy Wrestling podcast out all about WrestleMania weekend and the Raw following it on Monday, and WWE being bought by Endeavor and all that stuff. I'm plugging this, Eric, even though I don't know. I was off my game. I didn't like my performance during this episode. I think I was all higgledy-piggledy. I was scattershot. I was all over the place. I was hinky. I was janky. I was all the things. But
you were fine.
If it's also on the Patreon. So if you are a Patreon subscriber, whatever tier, it'll wind up there. Other than that, though, if you're not on our Patreon, you have to find it at We Enjoy Wrestling if you want to hear us talk wrestling, which we did for several years before we started just straight up We Enjoy. All right, let's get into our good things to enjoy. And Eric, what is your good thing to enjoy that you're recommending for people this week?
I had to remind myself of that. You were asking me. I was like, oh, he's about to ask me, and I don't remember what it was. No, tying into our main event this week, because our main event, Misery, has a very small cast by design.
I was going to bring this up when listing the actors for Misery.
Yes, well, I knew you would. But that Richard Farnsworth, who has, probably the most prominent role that beyond the two leads in Misery, has the sheriff, who's kind of, a subplot of him investigating the whole movie, and was, just one of those very familiar faces who was, a character actor for many years and would pop up and, just be in a lot of stuff. That his final performance was in 1999's The Straight Story, which is what I'm recommending, which I haven't seen in a long time, but I really loved it. And The Straight Story is such a weird outlier in everything about what it is and who made it. The Straight Story is directed by David Lynch for the Walt Disney Company. It wasn't released as Touchstone or Hollywood Pictures. It was released as Walt Disney Pictures with the logo and everything. Is rated G, but again, David Lynch directed this film. And it wasn't like he needed cash. It wasn't like I'm selling out David Lynch movie. It was a movie he wanted to make. And made with Disney because they were down to make it, and it would, unlike his other films, would fit in with their brand. And it's based on a true story with Richard Farnsworth playing this old man who wanted to go see his ailing brother, but this guy was not cleared to drive anymore, and so he took his John Deere tractor and he basically went on a cross-country trip to go see his brother because that was his mode of transportation. It was like kind of a strange like oddity true story. And Lynch, it was brought to Lynch and he loved it. And they made this movie that is very uncharacteristic of most David Lynch's, because I explained that story to you, and obviously it's quote unquote quirky. But beyond that, this is not a David Lynch psychological horror show.
It doesn't make you feel like you're watching a nightmare in real life. Yeah.
No, it's a sweet and fairly realistic one. It really happened, so it's got that going for it. Depiction of this with Richard Farnsworth giving this awesome performance that got him an Oscar nomination. Months before he died. The backstory of this movie is kind of like both sad and it's one of those, it's like both sad but a triumph, because he had terrible terminal cancer when he made it. He already knew, the filmmakers knew, and he had kind of fight through to make this movie. not only did he do that, but he got a fucking Oscar nomination for it. At 80 years old, I think he's still the oldest person to get a Best Actor as opposed to Supporting Actor nomination. Anyway, yeah, it's a really good movie. Angelo Badalamenti, who passed away recently, who scored most of Lynch's stuff, scored it. It's like the whole Lynch crew doing like this very different type of movie, and it really works, and it's it's beautiful to look at. Sissy Spacek plays his daughter in it. There's a couple of Lynch regulars, like Harry Dean Stanton plays the brother that he's going to see. Everett McGill from Twin Peaks is in it. But yeah, it's when you look at Lynch's sort of history of his movies, this one stands out as an oddity, but also very acclaimed. Like a lot of his stuff, very acclaimed. And a standout for showing that he can do something very different. And yeah, highly recommend it. And it is on Disney Plus. Again, there is a David Lynch movie on Disney Plus, and it's called The Straight Story, and you should watch it. And Richard Farnsworth.
It's fucking freaky.
Oh no! We put Lynch's original cut on Disney Plus.
The Straight Story. It'll fuck you up for life.
That's right.
Okay. My good thing to enjoy this week is of the ilk of what we are discussing, though it is like 5 years later, sort of, because this movie came out in 2000, but it's still Oscar-winning director, 2 huge stars.
Yep.
And it's a horror movie, a ghost story mostly, but a horror movie, and filmed during the production of Castaway, during the time when Tom Hanks spent months losing weight to play a skinny version of himself in that movie, the Castaway version of himself. They filmed this movie in the interim, making 2 Zemeckis movies sort of coming out around the same time, both very different. This is What Lies Beneath. I don't know that it was critically well received that much, but I always really, really dug this movie and thought it was just a really fun, gothic-y ghost story. I think he did pretty well at the box office, but yeah, headlined by Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer, directed by Robert Zemeckis, as part of his, Robert Zemeckis, known for obviously movies like Forrest Gump and Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Contact and stuff like that, but also a driving, Tales from the Crypt, really behind certain sort of pulpy horror elements, and this sort of is born of that. As what are some of the other ones he produced as far as like horror? Did he do Ghost Ship, or was that Sam Raimi's company?
As a producer, no, he did Ghost Ship. He did 13 Ghosts, House on Haunted Hill.
Because he did the Tales from the Crypt movies, like Demon Knight, which is excellent, stuff like that. Anyway, What Lies Beneath is not sort of under any Tales from the Crypt.
The Frighteners he produced, which I guess was almost a Tales from the Crypt movie.
Yeah, so it basically is about a couple in Vermont, and he's a professor, and she's his wife. I think she's a cellist or something. And she starts suspecting that her next door neighbor was murdered by her next door neighbor's husband. I think it's like a wife has gone missing at the same time that mysterious things start happening around the house. This is a ghost story. It is also a murder mystery. Is the woman next door the ghost that she's seeing and being contacted by, or is it something else? Something a little closer to home, we don't know. And there's sort of a lot of the posters and trailers for this movie are sort of hinged on a very, very hair-raising, terrifying bathtub scene that works really well in this movie. I just dig it. I think it was I'm not going to say it was sort of underrated, because I think it did really well at the box office, but it's not a movie that people really talk about now, especially given its stars. But I always liked What Lies Beneath. You could see it on HBO Max. If you're in for a spooky, outside of spooky season, I think you could do a lot worse. That's a weak praise, but there you go.
I enjoyed it. I haven't seen it in forever. I didn't love it, but I remember enjoying it for sure. Also, it's What Lies Beneath and Castaway feel like right before we kind of lose Robert Zemeckis to his like weird CG,
like Polar Express stuff.
Yeah.
Also should note that Clark Gregg wrote this movie.
That's Gregg, right.
So
Agent
Clark
Coulson.
Gregg, who you would know as Agent Coulson from the MCU, or as Christine's ex-husband on the New Adventures of Old Christine. I just mentioned that because that was a long-running series that he was
and because you got in trouble for writing a news story.
I didn't
during
not get in
E3.
trouble. I didn't get in trouble for writing the news story. I
for putting it on the front page.
For accidentally putting it on the front page blog
for
roll.
replacing the news about the new PlayStation.
But New Adventures of Old Christine got renewed. Everyone needs to know this. So Miranda Otto and James Remar are also in it. But yeah, Clark Gregg, he writes sometimes, mostly acts, but he wrote and directed the Chuck Palahniuk adapted movie Choke with Sam Rockwell. He did another one a few years back that I don't know what it was about, but it was, I think, while he was doing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., he was doing this other small movie in his off time. This one he did not direct, obviously, just wrote. But apparently, and reading the Wikipedia here, because he needed to be on set for rewrites. And so because of that, he could not audition for Aaron Sorkin's Sports Night. He was supposed to read for a major role on Sports Night. But because of that, Sorkin would write him, give him a minor role on Sports Night for the final 2 episodes. But anyway, so yeah.
And also an infamous, I won't say what it is if you haven't seen the movie, but an infamous case of the trailer giving away a huge third act twist.
Yes. Don't watch the trailer, just watch the movie. And also, I think this is just sort of, especially since we were talking about like how James Caan was like the 12th pick for the lead for Paul in Misery, is that Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer were both the first picks for both of these roles, and they both went, yep. And so they just got it. And Harrison Ford apparently liked it so much, he rescheduled his entire schedule to fit this in.
He waves his finger at someone and said, reschedule him.
He's like, everything's fine here. We're all fine. Okay. Let's get into Misery. Next week, obviously, Silence of the Lambs. I think I said you can watch What Lies Beneath on HBO Max. If I didn't, you can watch it on HBO Max, but you can also watch Silence of the Lambs on HBO Max. Just like you hopefully watched Misery on HBO Max. HBO Max, the home of all the movies we're currently doing.
I guess we'll see. It keeps going, yeah.
Okay. This is something. Misery cost $20 million, even though it's very few actors in it, mostly inside of one house. I'm wondering where all this money went. $20 million isn't huge, though it's 1990. So I'm like, why did this cost so much money? But then I'm more like, why did What Lies Beneath cost $100 million? And I feel like it's because Harrison Ford probably got 20 or something like that. So
I mean, yeah, very likely that a lot of that was, and Zemeckis and Pfeiffer, yeah, all the salaries at that point would have been a lot.
Misery is so good. It is
so good.
A tight movie. Everything makes sense. Everything he does at every point is like him trying to figure out what he can do in his limited capacity to get out of there to incapacitate her. And like when his ploys fail, you feel it, it's such an interesting role, an interesting movie. The book obviously was also well regarded as far as just being a recent Stephen King release. And a few things were changed. Always what the story is that in the book, it was supposed to be a much more brutal thing that happened to his foot, though I think that's arguable.
That's the thing, is like, even when it came out, as much as they were like, oh, they took away what happened, but then you watch, you're like, I think it's maybe more effective.
I think it's worse. I think it's way worse here.
Yeah. But I think, I mean, this is, felt like a pretty damn faithful adaptation. Again, because Stephen King, I mean, the thing about Stephen King is, and again, I think this is the first time we're doing a Stephen King adaptation, right, on this podcast.
Man, I don't know. But is Rob Reiner the only other person besides like Frank Darabont who's done multiple King adaptations?
I feel like there's a couple others. Romero might have. No, Romero for sure. Although maybe that's
as a director.
Yeah, but then that's like, okay, well, Creepshow's not an adaptation because it was for. But I
get what you're saying. Yeah,
he did multiple stuff with Stephen King. But yeah, this book with Stephen King in general, I was going to say, he's just. I was really thinking, it's like, who matches him except maybe Shakespeare as far as how prolific he is to like have that many separate creations that are this famous. Like, not just like, oh, like George Lucas can always say, I fucking created Star Wars, which is this huge, and I understand, by the way, people are going to say Stephen King's universe is connected, and they're right. But I'm saying if they weren't connected, and some of it's very loose connections, just the fact that this one guy had so many things that have become famous, but also the fact that they're, even though they're all horror, 90% of them are horror, there can be very different types of stories. So it's like Misery has nothing supernatural. It is super small scale. There's been a stage adaptation because it lends itself to that. It's just two people in a house for the brunt of it. But yes, the book was a great read, and then you watch this movie, and I will use the cliche word, it's riveting. And I've mentioned things on this podcast before when we do movies that I can, I have a good memory for, like, the theatrical experience. I remember opening out of this movie, holy shit, people were freaking out. Like when he's crawling on the floor in the kitchen,
oh my
and
God,
she's coming back, and it still gets me.
That's the thing. When I'm saying everything in this movie works, I think I'm also sort of like flashing back to sitting in the theater.
Yeah,
how anxious everyone was. How I wasn't just on the edge of my seat, Eric. I was on the edge of the seat of the guy next to me.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is to say, like, him, the race against time to get back to the chair, get back in the room. Oh God, he also has to lock the door. Oh, she's walking up the steps. To, oh God, she knocked over the wine that he spent so long trying to, like, hoard these pills. And, like, what does he do? Like, you see it on his face. He's just despondent. He's gone, all these things, everything works, including the large moments of horror, which is obviously the hobbling scene most of all. But the build of this movie is great. It's paced really well. The use of the very the small amount of ensemble that this movie has, it still uses it really well. Like, they use the Richard Farnsworth character Buster, I think his name is, very well as Frances Sternhagen's, his deputy / wife. It's like the scenes between them are very amusing, and
they're great. They're really. I felt bad for her when I think at the end that she's now a widow,
as being Cliff Claven's mother. But yeah, she's
and still alive at 93, by the way. But yeah,
wow,
she's like, she is a, you've 100% seen her, because even if you're a much younger person listening to this podcast who might not know Richard Farnsworth as well, you've still seen Frances Sternhagen, because she was still doing stuff until about maybe 10 years ago. But yeah.
And then JT Walsh shows up out of nowhere, and even like Rob Reiner is a helicopter pilot. But yeah, it's really James Caan and Kathy Bates' show here. Before we dig into the movie, I wanted to give another shout out, because I already recommended it as a good thing to enjoy previously, which is to say the second season of Castle Rock,
which I didn't recommend today because you'd already done it.
I already did it, but yeah, Castle Rock with Lizzie Kaplan playing a young Annie Wilkes and giving her a much, a full backstory. Though everything doesn't connect when we're looking at like the scrapbook here that Paul flips through. Yeah, no, it's not all going to be a direct line. This is
but Castle Rock was definitely not like, because Castle Rock, even by the fact that Castle Rock was set in present day, but had multiple characters that were contemporaries of each other.
Right. Like, obviously this wasn't this version of Annie Wilkes, younger Annie Wilkes, wasn't taking place in the 50s or 60s or something like that. It was taking place in present day.
And Ace from Stand By Me is there, but he's not a very old man like he should be if he was around in the 50s.
But yeah, it's basically that second season was, I think, amazing, that blended Salem's Lot together with Annie Wilkes' character and her trials and tribulations.
And Jane Levy has Jack Torrance's niece, Jackie. We didn't talk about that when we were talking about Jane Levy's.
But wasn't it revealed at the end of season 1 that she made it up? I can't remember. But still, yes, she was in Castle Rock season 1.
Oh, she's in season 1. I forgot. That's it.
Yeah, she's in season 1, which was sort of the not fully based on anything.
You're recommending season 2 so you can spoil season 1, Matt? I see how it is.
I think it was the better season.
It was the better season, but I still enjoyed the show overall. Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, Lizzie Kaplan is a great young Annie. Whether or not she's supposed to be a younger version of this Annie, who's to say? It does kind of drop us off on the doorstep of something that could resemble Misery a few years later. But anyway, Castle Rock, good stuff. Gone too soon. Okay.
And then I just also want to mention as we go into Misery, we mentioned, I mentioned up top, but it's like a few things going to this movie that stood out were one, of course, that Stephen King, the fact that this was only 3 years after, and I think the quickest turnaround that we'd had. And then also, Rob Reiner, who, one of the most amazing runs as a director ever. And while it's too bad that he stopped making great movies, that he doesn't need to after he made This Is Spinal Tap, The Sure Thing, Stand By Me, The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, Misery, and A Few Good Men in a row. Then he'd have like Terrible, Terrible North, and he'd make one more great movie, The American President, after that, and then it's not been very good after that. But the fact that he made that many great movies that were so different in genre, that's the crazy thing, is like, he'd already done a Stephen King adaptation, but it was Stand By Me. It was one of the non-horror ones. And he's coming off Princess Bride and When Harry Met Sally when he makes this. Crazy. Like the fact that he made all those movies and they're so good. What a great run. And the fact that Billy Crystal is reading Misery and When Harry Met Sally, and a funny joke about how he reads the ends of books before, just in case he dies. And we see him reading Misery. So there was a lot of like, and William Goldman, who wrote the screenplay to Misery, had written, of course, The Princess Bride, both the book and the movie. So there was a lot of like, okay, here we are. Rob Reiner even named his production company Castle Rock after the town from The Body / Stand By Me.
And
like the show.
It's funny because North was such a bizarre bomb back when apparently straight white men could have their careers ruined by a bad movie. Like it didn't they seem pretty Teflon nowadays.
I mean, again, he did do The American President.
He did big movies after this. Also,
but he did one great movie after.
Mississippi was supposed to be big. Also, it's Story of Us had big stars in it. It wasn't well received, but he was still doing movies after this. But I remember what a weird woof North was, and how much it was like it kind of stinkeroonied him. It was weird, even given his track record, that he could take that kind of hit.
But you watch this and it's like, at this point, we just kind of trusted that Rob Reiner makes great movies, but the fact that he had never made like a scary movie before this, and he never did after, and it's great. Like, the fact that this movie, it just totally works.
Just to bring up the audience experiences back then, because these were big name directors and big name stars, at least following this anyway. This movie, and then a year later, Silence of the Lambs, seeing these in theaters were some of the most memorable audience, broad moviegoer reactions I've ever
People
seen.
who won't go to see a Nightmare on Elm Street,
who aren't going to see the Nightmare-a-thons with us, or seeing Jason Takes Manhattan, or those slasher movies or something like that, would go see these movies and they would be scared shitless.
Yes.
And it was very made for memory, very memorable viewings. I have never seen anyone more scared in my life at a movie than the woman sitting next to me at the end moments of Silence of the Lambs, the basement stuff. Like, she was crying, and it was like, this is somebody. And I'm saying, like, even if you are into horror, that's still a very terrifying scene.
These are extremely effective movies,
and so
but yes, there's that extra level of an audience who's not primed for that kind of experience to see this.
That kind of terror. I don't see movies like that usually. So Misery plays on a lot of different things, from pure horror to just like high stakes, basically nerve-wracking stuff of like you mentioned, crawling on the floor, trying to, races against time, stuff like that. So it's funny too, because she brings up in one of her famous Annie's famous cock-a-doodle car speech in the middle of the movie, when she loses it, talking about serials, which play on everyone's fears and anxieties watching it, only to cheat later, right? Like they come back and be like, hey, he actually dove out of the car, or something like that. This movie does that, but doesn't cheat it. And also, she's right when she basically hands the pages back to Paul and be like, that's a cheap ass way to bring Misery back, Paul. I agree with her. It was.
but of course,
made him write better. She made him write better.
Well, which I know. I think the book goes even further into, about the fact that she's making him a better writer. But of course, there is first of all, Kathy Bates is phenomenal in this movie, very well deserved Oscar. The character is, traditionally gets named in like the 100 best movie villains of all time, and I think it deserves to be. I think Stephen King has said this is maybe his favorite character he's created. It's a phenomenal character, but also one thing in this day and age, she is the avatar for the modern online toxic fandom. Like the not just I'm really disappointed I didn't like your new thing. I'm fucking furious and you betrayed me personally, and I am now going to ruin your life because you made a bad follow-up to something that I liked.
Remake this. Like, remember when people fans were like, remake the final season of Game of Thrones. Like,
I did a Twitter search for myself tonight watching Misery because I'm like, oh, I know I've mentioned Annie Wilkes a couple times, and of course it was about fucking Snyder Bros. And it was, but specifically the thing that felt the most Annie Wilkes to me about the Snyder Bros were when they were still screaming for a Batfleck movie after Ben Affleck said, I don't want to be Batman anymore. Like, again, I don't want to star in my own Batman
said
movie.
You were going to, you owe
right. And they're like, no, we demand you star in
What if we break
movie.
your ankles? How about
right.
What if we made you really nice home-cooked meals while we went in the other room and drank Coke and ate Cheetos? That was always really interesting, is that he would have these like balanced, meals with veggies and a starch and like a meat and something like that and a salad on the side and a dessert. And she's in there just eating chips and drinking soda and watching Love Connection, which was such a strange choice, like an interesting dichotomy of like, she's
by her standards, that's kind of a dirty show.
No, it is. It's a dirty show, and that's dirty food, and that's like it's something that she wouldn't do. It's so interesting. She's also obviously super mentally ill. That's a huge part of this. And one of the most obvious, of course, the hobbling scene is terrifying. One of the more terrifying scenes is when she comes in a full like depressive state.
Yes.
When she comes in and she's not either overjoyed or over angry, she's nothing.
When it's raining, yeah.
Yeah, and like she's got the gun and she's just like she says it gives her the blues, but obviously it's way worse than that.
Yes.
And she's the sad character of like, you'll never love me and you don't know what it's like for someone like me to lose someone like you. Like that's absolutely the most terrifying part of her is that part. So anyway, okay, so Jimmy Caan playing Paul Sheldon, a writer who at the time we don't know what he's finishing, but he's finishing a new book that has nothing to do with the book series that has made him famous and rich, which is this sort of quasi-trashy romance series that involves a heroine named Misery Chastain. Mm-hmm. And we get a couple flashbacks at the beginning because it really gets into the car accident right away.
I mean, it's so quick. Like, yeah, like this, there's this movie, it moves fast. And because when they do that first flashback, you might think, oh, they'll do a bunch of flashbacks, but they don't. There's just really that one.
And there's Lauren Bacall, movie star with Lauren Bacall playing his agent, and he has already killed off Misery in the final Misery Chastain book.
But the book isn't out yet.
Right. The book that he has just finished, though, is his own new baby. He's going to try something new. He wants to prove to himself he's a better writer than the stuff he's been doing, even though it's made him super rich and famous. And we don't know what it is. I think we assume the book he wrote at the end was his recreation of what he had to burn, but we're not sure.
Right.
I can't remember the title of it.
All he mentions is the thing about it's about slum kids. I was a slum kid, so you feel like, oh, this was something a little more autobiographical,
something closer to home, something more personal to him than the Misery series. And then he goes out again. Stephen King story, not set in Maine, nowhere near Maine, because he doesn't even live. It's not even like, oh, he lives in Maine normally, but now he's writing in Colorado. He lives in New York. So he's in Colorado during a blizzard. He goes off the road on carrying his only copy of the book that he just wrote because he won't make other copies of it.
Yeah, we should mention that
a typewriter.
In 1990, it was already, plenty of people were writing on computers to the point that in Stand By Me, he was typing, Richard Dreyfuss was using a computer to type his little memoirs, but that it kind of becomes a plot point that, like, he's writing on a typewriter because he has this superstition about having multiple copies.
Things need to be just so.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes off the road, and we get some flashbacks to the agent, but then basically he's rescued by Kathy Bates Annie, who's already really sort of unique in the sense that she's got strength. She's stocky. She's got strength.
She carries him.
She can firemen's carry him in the snow in a blizzard. Yep. Like, that's a lot. Like, even later when she carries him down the steps to her basement, I'm like, woof. Like, I couldn't do that. Like, right. That's crazy. And she crowbars open the door, and so she saves him. And basically, he's fucked. His legs are all broken and mangled, and he's got like a hurt arm and stuff like that. And she happens to be a nurse. Not just that, but she also happens to be the number one fan. And
the first thing he hears her say is, "I'm your number one fan," all distorted.
And she's really sweet to him and polite and courteous, and
clearly eccentric. Like, she uses words like oogie. But at first, of course, it could just be more like, oh, this odd woman, living on her own.
But the film reveals the dangerous elements in a very, very slow release way that works in the sense that, like, she pulls back the blanket and his legs look terrible. Now, we think he should go to a hospital, but after that, we definitely think he should go to a hospital. Like, this is irresponsible what she's doing. Even though she says she set them as best she could, he looks like he's in a bad state. And then it just starts to compound with her moods. And the film just does a really great job of, like, building up what causes her to have outbursts first, right? Like, what is happening?
And the first time we and him see something is really wrong is when she reads his new book, his manuscript, and the first 40 pages, and that there's cursing, and the way she gets upset and starts shaking the soup, and really, and doing her rant about, what if I talked like that?
Yeah,
effing, and just that something is very wrong with her. Because it's not just like, oh, I didn't like the swearing. It's that she is really, like, losing it about this in a way that she can't control herself. And that's the first time he is like, oh fuck, like, seeing that side of her.
So the first danger sign, even before that first outburst, would be before the spilling soup scene and her sort of objections to the profanity, was the reveal that she was stalking him. And she freely admits this. She freely admits this.
Yep.
Is that she
knew he would be there at the hotel. Yeah.
Right. And she tells him, sometimes I just parked outside and looked at your room with the light on. Like, she is an absolute
stalker,
basket case at this point. And he is allowing her adoration of him and her kind words, and he's a little blinded to her at first because she's so polite and kind. Like, at first she's actually very plain speaking. Mm-hmm. Then she gets a little more chipper. I think mood swings is the key term here, which is that whether or not, like, whatever mental malady she has at the moment, but obviously it involves a lot of ups and downs. And because when she's first introducing herself, even when she's saying, "I'm your number one fan," she's not overly happy and chipper. She's very, very sort of medium tempered and plain speaking.
Right.
But then when she starts talking about how she knows all the 8 Misery books by heart and all that stuff, he loves her as a fan at that point, to the point where he can't see the danger of her. Like, oh, you would come to my hotel and sit in your car in the parking lot.
Right.
While I'm inside. You didn't come to try to meet me. You didn't come to try to do anything. You're just there, which is obviously someone coming to the hotel to meet you because they're a huge fan is, I think, far less terrifying than someone going and driving and sitting in the parking lot and driving away. Because at least they're like, hey, I really like you. I just want to, nowadays, a selfie or an autograph or something like that. But I just want to look in the window of where you might be. Is horrifying.
This is I'm gonna tell another Maya Kelly story. And her husband Brian will tell her about it, because that's the last time when I talked about how she ruined Matt and Ben working together. I'll tell the Christian Slater story, which is
one thing I do know about Maya is she loved Christian Slater.
She loved Christian Slater. That was like her huge like crush growing up. Mine was Winona Ryder. We loved those Heathers cast.
Oh, the Heather too.
Yeah. But we were Maya and I were neighbors. We lived like a block away from each other, and Christian Slater was our neighbor. It was funny because he was living in Van Nuys, in like a neighborhood you wouldn't expect him to live in, but he's living in a modest house in Van Nuys near us. And again, we are like kids. We're like 14. But she never like went up and said anything, like, if she gone up to him, she would have been like a kid. It would have been, so it wouldn't have been like a threatening thing if she's like, hey, can I have your autograph, or can I get a picture or whatever? That's not how Maya sounds. That's right. But she never did. She would literally sit across the street from his house, like on the curb. And it was really funny because I was reading an interview with him, and then at a certain point he moved, and then I was reading an interview with him a couple years later. And the interviewer who had interviewed him before was like, hey, are you still in that house in the valley? It's like, oh, no, I moved. And the guy was like, oh, too many fans coming up to you? He goes, no, I didn't mind if people came up to me. It was the people who wouldn't come up to me. Or just
That's
like,
what I'm saying.
So I'm saying. So I said,
if Maya had just been like, hey, Christian, I really like you.
Right.
Can you take a picture together or something like that?
But she was Annie Wilkesing it. This Maya does know about.
From the distance is
this
so
one I've already
unsettling.
told her about, that she pulled an Annie, but she had the defense of being 14 at the time.
It could have been worse. His interview could have been like, he's like, no, people saying hi was one thing. There was this one girl though who would
this one teenage girl that freaked me out.
He's like, it was like It Follows, and they're like, why are you talking about a movie that hasn't come out yet? I'm like, I don't know.
It will be.
It's like your kids are gonna love it.
But yeah, there's sort of the 1-2 punch of the way she freaks out about the cursing in his book, and then when she catches herself, that's when she first says, I love you, Paul, and then tries to catch herself on that by saying, you're mine, to creativity. But now we're really seeing, just sort of the crazy levels that she can go to, and how easy it is for her to completely go off kilter.
Right. And basically at this point, we're assuming like days have gone by, and she keeps giving the same story about the roads being closed and the phone lines are down and stuff like that. And we know that something's off. He's not completely hip to it yet, except when she comes in with his new book. Now, we mentioned Richard Farnsworth and Francis Sternhagen already, but during this time, we were introduced to them because Lauren Bacall's character calls Sheriff Buster and talks about Paul, and this starts...
He never made it to his daughter.
Yeah, so he goes to check on the hotel, and he does a little snooping around, and we learned that he and his deputy are husband and wife, and they're really
very
fun and quirky together.
Cute.
Yeah,
the hand on the knee when they're driving. It's all very likable.
So, and what happens to him is kind of what happens in these movies. It goes back to something.
It's a very, very shining,
very psycho-y thing, which is like the investigator who actually does find out
the stepfather we just talked about when they do this. Yeah,
they find their quarry. The character that didn't happen in H2O was supposed to be this too, right? Like the cop that was following Michael Myers. It was supposed to be
this person can save you, but they will fail to save you. But maybe they'll kind of be. Sometimes they kind of help you in a weird way, because
like maybe they'll drop their weapon,
and
use it or something like that, right? So it makes it even more devastating, right? Like when he gets killed, because we have kind of gotten to know him, and we do like his relationship with his wife and stuff like that. Like you were saying that you were sad that she was going to be a widow now. Like it was just, and it's brutal. Like his chest explodes.
No, the only thing I thought was at least he didn't suffer, because his last thought was, oh my God, I found him. And then,
and she didn't even use her pistol. It was just a full shotgun.
Yeah, we didn't know she had the shotgun. So.
Yeah. So
I guess when your opening song is Shotgun, you have to pay it off.
Oh, then you do the jerk baby.
Right.
Okay, so but then she comes in with this new book that she doesn't know the ending to yet, obviously, but then she's lying. She's lying. She says she talked to his agent. She says that the phones are working, but not here, but in town. But because he's at this point still really concerned. He's like, hey, I've been gone a long time. My daughter's birthday's today. Everyone's probably really freaking out. And so she has to come up with these lies on the fly. Again, she's just lying in the moment to get to the next moment. She has no idea, she has no full end game here except to just lie on her feet. And that's what she's doing. And, she's
but also she's
well.
But also she's crossing this line of, because as much as at first he was like letting her kind of feed into his ego with how much she loved him, well, now he's already seen the scarier side start to creep out. And now when she starts to read his new book, Misery's Child, not knowing how it's going to end, and she so loves it, and she's saying the Sistine Chapel and Misery's Child are the only two divine things in this world. Like the level she's holding it up to, which would never hold up, much less this book that's going to have an ending that she's not going to be happy
with. It's another thing where like we should draw out here her religious aspects here. She was wearing a crucifix necklace, and her belief that God is sending her messages is a big part of her mania, as well as, she's always sort of reworking what she thinks God wants from her, and it usually fits into what she actually wants. So she sort of does reverse engineering when it comes to God's messages, because at one point it's like, I'm here to help you burn your book and start a new book. I'm here to kill us both. I'm here to, it's always just sort of shifting.
Yep.
And it has to do with like her sense of safety and security in the real world. And, if she feels cornered, well, then God wants me to die. And if she doesn't, then God wants me to do this. And as we talk about moments that just sort of punch you in this movie, there are several. And, the punches, the intensity of the punches differ. But like one of them is like her forcing him to burn his book. Like it hurts. And they start, again, everything builds in this movie. So like it hurts when she drops the wine. It hurts when she makes him burn the book. And the dialogue that they have here, like everything that he tries to do, whether he's acting or not acting or trying to convince her or otherwise, like he's basically like, first he tries to pretend like he has more copies of it. Secondly, he says, hey, how about I just keep it? It's just for me. I'm not going to publish it. Like he tries all these different angles with her to try to do it. And the movie is just so well written that, every scene just makes sense. Every scene.
It all plays as like, like this feels like the right thing and builds great tension out of small moments. Again, I'm jumping ahead here a minute because we haven't even talked about her finding out Misery died. But like when he first sneaks out of his room, it's so great because we have a situation where he cannot get out of this wheelchair. He can't walk. And so he sees the hairpin, but we understand he can't just sit up and grab it when she's out of the room. So he has to get her to go back to town to do this whole thing, to
do this whole thing and talk about the paper and stuff like that. And maybe he's right. Maybe he did need newspaper, but
he proves the smudging thing.
He certainly knows enough about paper to on the fly come up with an excuse because he knows it smudges,
Yeah.
It's all really good. And she starts talking at certain points about how her husband left her, and we realized that he was actually she murdered him.
Sure.
As she murdered everyone, because if you go by the sort of the newspaper clippings, of the terrible things she's done that she saves in her scrapbook, she murdered her husband. She murdered a rival nursing school student so she could be the top student. Mm-hmm. She murdered the previous pediatrician so that she could be ahead of the maternity ward. And that usually these articles are right next to each other.
Whole lot of killing going on.
We don't. The one thing that we don't fully understand though is what was happening with the babies. We don't
why. I mean, we understand she killed them, but why did she? Yeah,
right. That's sort of not answered here. She didn't even give us anything about it. Like,
right. She doesn't talk about kids in any specific way to give us.
No, and I'm even thinking back to like Castle Rock. I don't even think they addressed any of that on that season either. So
I mean, she has a kid in Castle Rock.
Yes, so she does. All right. Okay.
Yeah, this is we should talk. Yeah, so she finishes the book, and this is when the toxic,
Misery dies and
toxic fandom comes into play,
and calling him a dirty bird. You murdered her, smashes the table against the wall. You murdered Misery.
Almost smashes him. Yeah.
Yeah, almost smashes him. Not yet. She will, but not yet. She says, I thought you were good. She knows enough about herself.
The idea that he has betrayed her, that, yeah, she
but let's give her some credit in this one scene, because it's a terrifying moment, but she says, I don't think I should be around you for a while. And she gives herself a timeout. She gives herself distance from the situation. And because if she'd stayed there, she probably would have wound up hurting him. So she leaves. But she also is threatening him. Basically, she says, I never called anyone. You better hope I don't die, because if I die, you die. So everything's completely turned upside down for him. He was already wanting to get out of there and growing ever, increasingly suspicious about his situation. But now
he's in trouble. Yeah.
He actually actively, and when she drives off is his first time of trying to get out, and he can't because the door's locked. But just watching him, the struggle he has, just getting to the door sets us up for how much struggle he's going to have getting around the house and trying to do anything going forward.
Yes. And now she's directly saying, if I die, you die. She reveals she never called anyone.
Yeah.
I also want to mention, forgot to mention this at the top, that this movie looks great. Is Barry Sonnenfeld was a cinematographer, his final movie before he becomes a director with the Addams Family the next year. And while obviously this is not one of his Coen brothers movies with like crazy, camera work, like the scene where she confronts him and it's like these extreme close-ups of her and sort of the intensity of it, you can tell you have a really good cinematographer working on this movie as well. To like just a lot of good people to take something that could feel really bare bones, like in theory, and make it feel properly cinematic with, the way they're telling this story.
Man, when she comes back and she's already a different person again, she's shifted. She's like, what are you doing on the floor? She's like, she's very much like either doesn't remember her fugue state that she flew into, or does, but just wants to move on and pretend it didn't happen. But then she sort of refers to her outbursts as her thinking being a little muddy, because she knows she goes crazy and she knows she's delusional. She sort of has given it a cutesy little nickname, which is that her thinking goes muddy. And she brings up, just sort of off the cuff, in something that I guess we'll figure out a little bit later, which is like, I couldn't even remember all the things they were asking me on the witness stand in Denver. Which is, never followed up. He doesn't ask. He takes note of it with his face, but he doesn't follow up on it at all. This is when she brings in his book to burn. It's basically like a painful thing for him to have to do. And this is even before she proposes that he's going to rewrite write a whole new book that brings Misery back to life. She's like, Dexter Newblood, do that. He's like, okay.
I'm also amending things. She also not so subtly threatens him because she splashes a little lighter fluid on his bed, implying that if you don't burn this book, because she's making it like a choice. Like, I think it'll be great if you burn this book, while also implying I will fucking burn you in this bed if you don't do this. Now, I was fascinated, Matt, to wonder in this scene, the line, help me help you, is said. Now, very famously, Jerry Maguire, if people say help me help you, they're thinking of Jerry Maguire. This is one of those things where, did people say help me help you before this movie?
I think it was a saying.
I guess it must have been. It's just funny to me, like, because it's, when you think of a movie saying it, Jerry Maguire, which is 6 years later, is where, like,
I feel like it was a saying.
I'm sure it was.
I think it was all around town. I think everyone wearing town pants.
In LA, everyone was saying it. Yeah.
Yeah. LA is the wheeler dealers, right? They are to the deal, like, hey, agents and managers, and they're saying, like, help me help you. They're on their car phones and they're eating sushi. You know how LA is.
I know how they are. Intermixed with all this is him learning, and us learning, that his disappearance is now a story, like a news story, that it's been long enough that it's in the newspaper, and this is when the helicopter flies by, and that now there is a actual like hunt for like what happened to this famous writer.
And then she's like, winters are getting shorter, climate change. And
yes.
He's like,
they have a very interesting conversation about she's really one-sided. She only talks about it.
So Yeah, but this is when he starts hiding pills
Yeah.
as painkillers, while this is the first reveal of the Cheetos and the Coke and the love connection. Well, basically, like it's like she is not. There's a hypocrisy there, right? Where it's like
Right.
she sort of like becomes this other person. Well, when she enters that room, because even at the end when she calls him a cocksucker, like it's like that part of her comes out that she would have you believe doesn't exist at all, like that type of language.
Right.
But we know that there is a dichotomy in her existence, and even if it says innocuous as like I'm eating junk food while he's eating a well-rounded home-cooked meal. Okay, so this then basically she comes in with a wheelchair and an electric razor, and basically he is at this point playing along with her. He's starting to do more acting and starting to do like just sort of phony agreement that eventually she'll start to see through, but at this point it's what she's looking for. And she proposes that he's going to write a new book and sets him
Bring
up
misery back to life. Write the book in my honor, she also says.
Yes, gets a typewriter and all this. And this opens up the first hair-raising crawl through her house after she leaves to get new paper, which is like him having to, it's all painstaking. Like he has to pick up the bobby pin. He has to pick it up after he drops the bobby pin. Right. Then he has to hope that he can actually pick the lock, and he does. And then he finds a phone, but it's a fake phone. And then he's going around trying to find any door that's open. And by a certain time, she's come back home.
He also learns that she's a big Liberace fan.
Yes, and that she has a penguin that he places wrongly. And it's funny because I'm glad she doesn't notice that exactly right away, because we notice
that was a big audience. Ooh, yeah, like when he put it back.
We're meant to notice that he puts it back wrong, but it doesn't pay off for another like 20 minutes.
Yeah,
so.
But like, her coming back and him having to get back to that room. Holy shit. And again, because now, like you said, he's acting a lot more, so he can't hide that he's all sweaty. So it's funny because he the one subplot from the book that they cut was, in the book he gets an actual like addiction to the medication she's giving him,
right?
And here it kind of gets a nod because he covers for the sweatiness by screaming for his pills. Which ultimately I think feels smart, because it's like, even as unstable as she is, by him doing that, it shows that that's why I'm freaking out. Is I need my pills, and that's why I'm a sweaty mess. Not I was crawling across the floor of your house trying to escape.
And the next beat of this story is him realizing he just can't hack his way through this, which is like, I'll just write any old bullshit on as a new book, and she'll let me go. She calls him out on writing hacky shit.
And the cliffhanger.
Yeah, and like, you can't do it. You can't cheat people. You can't just say that this happened because you're contradicting a whole bunch of other stuff that you already said happened. And so she makes him rewrite the whole thing, and it's better. And then she loves it. And she's like, this all makes sense. This is actually good stuff. And it's such a funny thing where it's like, yes, because even we jump all the way to the end of this movie where he's like, I think about the experience and how she helped me. Like what it is in the end that she helped him do, who knows, rewrite the book that he originally wrote and burned. Maybe what he wound up rewriting was better. Maybe the second book that he wrote, because he had to burn his first copy, was better than what he would have turned in the first place.
And he wrote 2 books that he burnt.
I know.
There are 2 lost works by Paul Sheldon. Also a very funny moment when she first reads his early pages and calls him out on him being shit, that she says, you have to change it all except for the part where you name the gravedigger after me. That she loves that.
Yeah, gravedigger.
Even though the fact that he named the gravedigger after her is like a funny thing that
Wilkes
she didn't care about.
Is an actual excellent name for a gravedigger. I have.
It is.
But at this point, he's a better writer, but he's also we got the cock-a-doodle car speech, but he's also fully playing along because he's got all of his pills, all the powder inside the capsules, inside a little packet. He's going to put it in her wine. So he says, will you have dinner with me tonight? And this is when he actually starts to sort of woo her, playing her in our actual real affections for him.
Yes.
And
yes.
having a romantic dinner with, candlelight and wine and stuff like that. And so that he can basically drug her. But yeah, it doesn't, his best laid plans go to shit because everything spills. And
yeah, even though he's like doing his best, like, when he asked her to go get the candle, he's still chatting with her while he's taking out the drugs and stuff. It's so heart-wrenching when it doesn't work. I do want to backtrack for just a second just to say that when he writes his new pages and now she loves it, and she's like a little kid, she's like squealing, misery's alive, misery's alive. And again, Kathy Bates just being so great here of showing like these completely different sides to this woman that can come out, and how even that of course can be unsettling, the fact that she's acting like that, like childish, stomping around about that. But man, when she knocks over that wine and his plane goes to shit.
I didn't
mention
mention
a good line she has. I'm going to steal Annie Wilkes' line.
Gonna steal? Okay.
If anyone ever told me I'd have a candlelit dinner with Paul Sheldon, I would have checked both legs to see which one was being pulled. That's like the seat next to me line.
Yeah, I wasn't just on the edge of my seat.
Right.
The at the same time, the sheriff, I haven't mentioned, bought all of Paul Sheldon's books to read them. It
Very
will
funny.
pay off, even though
Yeah.
it shouldn't pay off, but it does, because
But it's a very funny montage of Paul writing the new book, and Annie reading what he's writing, and the sheriff reading the old books.
Yeah,
as a funny. We also skipped over the Misery the pig.
Oh yeah, Misery the pig, who will come into play later in
Symbolically.
pig form. Yeah, not
Yeah.
really. I think it's a doorstop or something.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Well,
so
and we see him lifting the typewriter, which is a nice little thing, because at the moment we don't know, is it just, again, he can't walk, so is it just like, I need to be physically strong, and so he keeps like practicing lifting the typewriter, which turns out to it's a simple plan, but it is a very important part of his plan, is that he can lift that typewriter when he needs to.
Yeah, and I already talked about because one of the next scenes is the rain scene, where she comes in all sad and depressed and saying, "I know you don't love me," and pulls out the gun or something like that. And this moment is what gets Paul in his next sort of like going around the house while she's out moment, grabbing a knife.
Yes.
And this is also when he finds the scrapbook and finds out that she's been killing people most of her life to get ahead and to have opportunities and stuff like that, or because she doesn't like her husband anymore or whatever. Murder seems to be her solution, her all too quick solution to her problems.
But then she was arrested at one point.
We don't know why she got off. We don't know why she was killing babies. We certainly can understand maybe why she was called Dragon Lady, because she probably had some outbursts. And also the way she goes around town, right? Like, she is perfectly polite in moments with Paul, but like going around town, like she's yelling at that driver and the sheriff sees her and stuff like that. Like, is she just miserable to everyone she comes across in this small town when she leaves their front door? I don't know. Because when the sheriff comes to see her, she's obviously putting on an act to like be polite and invite him in and stuff like that. But like, is that how she is with the shopkeeper? I don't know.
Right.
But she's called Dragon Lady, and I'm sure
you get the idea that she's seen as a local eccentric at best, because we see her get so confrontational with that one person.
But then also, we kind of have to assume she's not a nurse anymore, right? Like, she's somehow gotten all of these medicines and has a whole storage closet full of pills and stuff like that. But she doesn't go off to work. No one's going to hire her as a nurse after this.
No.
So, okay. Then comes the hobbling scene. He is ready with the knife. She's going to come in. He's going to get her. But she doesn't come into his room. She comes home. She turns on Love Connection and stuff like that. During this time, he falls asleep. He puts the knife in the mattress. He falls asleep, and he awakens to being tied up. And her having found or noticed at long last, the penguin that was turned the wrong way, and knows that he's been leaving his room. And this is the hobbling scene that caused so many screams in the theater when it happened, including
oh my god,
Jimmy Kahn screaming himself. And his screams are agonizing. Like the way he screams too are also make everything just so much more believable. We only see one foot. Obviously, they don't show us the second one. All you need to do is see the first, and the first foot turn in under the weight of the swinging sledgehammer.
Another K&B movie, Kurtzman, Nicotero, Berger. We've been following these guys as we watch the Evil Dead movies. But they worked on this and the hobbling scene. And as we were mentioning at the top, in the book, she just cuts off one of his legs. And it's fucking freaky as hell. I mean, I'd read the book before I saw the movie, and it was terrifying and horrific when it happened in the book. But any, they're
doesn't she feed it to him too?
I don't remember. Does she? She might. But I will say, like, it did not feel like, they chickened out. He doesn't get his leg cut off, because this is just if not more effective as an on-screen moment, is the crushing, the idea that what she's doing to him, and like the way she's telling the story at the same time. Also, it's like, we keep talking about how great Kathy Bates is, and she's great. But so is James Caan is great in this too. And that scene, which the clip gets shown, a whole lot. But when him saying like, Annie, whatever you're thinking about doing, please don't do it. He's awesome. Like, playing this guy who is just run out of options and is in the most horrific situation imaginable with this woman.
A lot of interesting things from the book didn't make it into this movie. Is like the fact that she kills a state trooper with her riding lawnmower instead of killing the local sheriff with a shotgun. I do remember there being a flamethrower. She doesn't cut off his foot with a flamethrower in the book. It was an axe, but she cauterizes the wound with a flamethrower. So,
we skip because you mentioned earlier JT Walsh's cameo as the state trooper. That one, that part's very funny to me, just because it's like I was amused by how this state trooper has no time for tact, because he's basically like, he's fucking dead. We'll find his body when the snow melts. Like, he's just like, well, he doesn't do the like, unfortunately, the chances are pretty low that we'll find him alive. He's just like, there's no chance. He's dead. We'll find his body.
You can. I'll stake my reputation on it. My name is cameo appearance State Trooper Sherman Douglas.
Right.
Okay. He's and I think maybe there's something to be said about re-breaking what's been broken. Like cutting off a foot is obviously terrible. It's it's obviously awful mutilation, but like the fact that his legs were already mangled, they went through the trouble of showing us his mangled legs already to show us how purple and eggplanty they were and gross, and that he was just starting to fully heal from this when this and you break him again, and it's like it feels worse. It just feels worse. Because it's also both ankles, not just one.
Because everything in this movie is us desperately hoping he can escape, get the upper hand, and then these terrible setbacks happening where things seem worse than ever.
Yeah, it's always 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. So basically he kind of gives up at this point. He's writing his book. He's basically the sheriff, though, at this time starts to put together a line from a Misery Chastain novel and something that Annie Wilkes said in court to reporters after her trial, or after walking out of a courthouse. She says a Misery Chastain line. He puts that together. We know he's going to put it together. We know he went so far as to note this sentence and write it down. And then all it takes is him basically seeing her out in public to remind him to go to the library and look at her trials and stuff like that. And he puts it together, and he basically has, he shows up. And do you think she was going to drug him with that cocoa, by the way?
Oh, maybe.
He doesn't drink it. And she's like, don't you want to drink your cocoa? What do you think?
Yeah, probably. Very fun sequence here of the two of them kind of doing this dance. Her, putting on a show, and him, obviously he's there for a reason. He's suspicious. Really fun moment when they both are looking at each other down the hall, both fake going back into the room they're in, and then both put their head out.
Yeah.
Like they kind of catch each other trying to see what the other one is doing at that
Also,
moment.
just when his car is pulling up, we get like the first like mini fight between
Oh yeah,
Annie and Paul because she comes at him with a needle and he's struggling. He starts choking her.
Yeah.
Like, and that was sort of like basically like their first big go at it. Then she still carries him down in the basement. Super strong.
Tough lady.
For somebody who's just fully limp and like just dead weight with casts on his legs. But then basically he whatever drug she gave him starts wearing off in a certain amount of time, and enough that he causes a ruckus, and the sheriff from the outside hears, goes back inside. He gets killed. And this is when she says, she brings up murder-suicide, and he pulls his last, ditch effort to at least delay something until dawn, dead by dawn, which is that let me bring misery back to the world. Let's finish the book before we do the murder-suicide thing. Because at this point, she knows that others are coming.
Yeah.
She knows that the sheriff probably asked about her or told someone, I'm going to go visit the Wilkes farm or something like that. So they don't have a lot of time before more law enforcement show up looking for this guy. And, but he convinces her to, for a stay of execution for at least a few more hours so that he can finish this. And he needs to pull out his best plan yet. He needs to do it. He also needs to do his best writing yet, which is even more anxiety riddled, I think, as far as like, he has to write all this stuff that she's going to love so that she absolutely desperately needs this final chapter. And
right.
I love when he holds it hostage and he's like, remember like who we never knew who our long lost father was. Remember this part? Yeah. Like all these things.
Because we get these little pieces, like you said, it's like, the idea that this kind of a trashy novel series written by
we don't even really know the full story of the series.
No, but like even when she says, I always knew she was born from royal blood. So they're kind of having fun here with like, what is this series? What is this about? It's in the 1800s. But also a nice touch. Again, this movie is great little touches. So even the fact that he's basically trying to make it through the night, stop her from the murder-suicide long enough to get the better of her, but he has to write these chapters to make it work. I like that there's a bunch of close-ups where you see it's riddled with typos because it's like he's on a typewriter.
Well, also the end doesn't work, so she was going to fill in the ends anyway because the end doesn't work on the typewriter. But
that's right.
And then he from the cellar he snuck up the lighter fluid, and he has a match because he demanded his post-novel cigarette along with the Dom Perignon.
There's a small convenience, but I let it go because he's wearing sweatpants and he puts the lighter fluid in the butt of his sweatpants.
I know, if she carried him up.
If she carried him, he was screwed, but instead she's pissed at him, so she's going to make him crawl up the stairs.
Yeah.
So it's like one of those like, okay, it's
that's fine. And then, just the burning the pages, throwing them down, and then down comes the typewriter right on her head.
What a pop, Matt, from the audience.
What a well-earned storyline pop.
Yes.
We knew it was
that was
coming,
like
but
Sami Zayn turning on Roman Reigns. When he finally hit her with that typewriter, the crowd, they went wild. This is what we wanted.
Yeah, big fight. She shoots him in the shoulder. They're punching each other. He does like he basically does a spear on her. Like he moves his wheelchair forward just enough that he has momentum. He could like rocket off it and tackle her to the ground. She eventually, even in this movie, we get the killer's not dead moment.
It's very cliche, but it's still part of a very satisfying sequence. And I like that when she does actually die, it's very creepy with her eyes open when she like falls on him, and then he has to kind of push her off, and she's just creepy staring out.
Again, everything is just such a great build to the point where from where this movie starts to like just him being found and saved and like nursed back to health, to all the suspicious things that happen, to the outright outbursts that happen, to the hobbling, to everything. to the point where he's shoving the burning pages in her mouth, saying, like,
Yeah.
eat it until you fucking choke, you
Yes.
sick, twisted fuck, like just screaming at her. Like, it's insane, this movie.
It is. But he had a reason to want to unleash at that point. And again, very crowd pleasing before he kills her with the pig statue. I hope someone took care of Misery. Misery, maybe the widow Virginia took in Misery. They lived a good life together.
Was the pig doorstop like prominently featured throughout this movie, or did it just feel like a random thing to kill her with at the end? I can't.
I mean, it felt. I don't remember it being featured. It's not. I mean, of course, it's not 100% random because she has this pig that she loves and has pictures of it in her scrapbook of her murders. So it's, you know, it's fine for me that we didn't really see it, the object prominently before, just because it's representative of stuff we've seen of hers before. I guess there's a version where he like hits her with his own frame. She has a framed photo that we presume she got at a signing of his before. But you know, like, what if he like killed her with that?
let me mention. We both can mention it, but like how much I enjoy the final like 2 minutes of this movie. It's really tricky sometimes to end a horror movie after the villain gets killed, and like, what do you do next? And forever, people just had the jump out moment, like the Crystal Lake scene, or because
Carrie,
of Carrie, because of Carrie, and because of Friday the 13th, so many horror movies had to do a fake out ending where the killer comes back, but it was a dream or something like that. The final gotcha, I appreciate, or they don't do anything and it's boring. Like someone just looks at a gravestone, or somebody does something, and
or they just do the thing. Some horror movies, I think, because of this problem, just end with like, that's it. The killer's dead. That's it. You know, it's like cut the credits.
Right,
you know,
right. This movie plays with that because he does see Annie, but it's more of just like, yeah, he's fucked up. He's going to.
This is a regular thing in his life.
He's going to be haunted by this forever, to the point where he even calls out when she says, "Hey, how about writing a book about what happened?" He's like, "That sounds terrible. Like it sounds like you're asking me to do something I absolutely have no intention of doing, because I would have to relive this." And I already relive it, by the way, because it wasn't like Annie attacks him in the restaurant, but he wakes up and his agent's like, "Paul, are you okay? You dozed off," or something like that, right? It's just he casually sees her everywhere. You know, it's just like the polka dot man's mom, which is like he can't escape her because everyone is her. I thought that was really well done, because you do want to close out the story. You do want to see him. How is he later after all these injuries? He's walking with a cane. He finally finished his book. It is a quote unquote happy ending, except that he is absolutely going to be carrying this trauma around with him forever. So yeah, good stuff.
Good. So yeah, great movie. Like I said, looking at the list of movies we're doing, I was very excited to revisit several of them. This was one of them, just because I obviously I've always loved this movie, but I hadn't seen this movie in quite a while. So I was excited to rewatch it. I was excited while rewatching it. Excited to talk about it.
We're to talk about it. Want to hear it? Here it goes.
Yeah. I didn't realize until tonight that there were two different plays based on Misery. The first one was written by Simon Moore, and Sharon Gless was the original like stage Annie 2 years after.
Oh, Sharon Gless, interesting.
Yeah, but that in 2015, William Goldman wrote a second play. He didn't write the first one, but then William Goldman came back and wrote a different play, and that's the one that Bruce Willis and Laurie Metcalf did on Broadway. So that's
Laurie Metcalf. That should be a good.
Yeah. She got a Tony nomination
from Mrs. Loomis to Annie Wilkes.
That's right. So yeah, she was Tony nominated for that. So
who did we figure out that Mrs. Loomis's first name was?
And it's Nancy. They say in the
Nancy Loomis.
Scream 6. Yeah. There you go. Misery. Yeah, fantastic. There's so many Stephen King adaptations, and obviously there's some Drek and there's some phenomenal ones. This is top level. And again, Annie Wilkes would be a great villain no matter what, with an amazing performance. Now it has all this resonance, unfortunately, because we see the sort of crazy toxic fandom out there. But yeah, for so many reasons, this movie is a real standout.
Okay, I'm looking at there is an actual feature, because on Screen Rant, who writes features on anything and everything, because it's just for SEO purposes. Okay, Directors who've done multiple Stephen King movies. George Romero. Because he did Dark Half.
Yep.
And he did Creepshow, which was not based on a book, but you know what we're saying. Louis Teague did Cujo. And Cat's Eye would adapt King for the Cat's Eye anthology film.
Oh, and Mick Garris. How did I forget Mick Garris? He's in a whole bunch.
Mick Garris did The Stand, the original Stand miniseries, not the latest one. And what else did he do?
He did the Shining miniseries, right?
I liked that. I liked some of it.
Yeah.
I liked Steven Weber. I thought he did a good job in that one. And I think, who is it? Rebecca De Mornay, was she in that? I can't remember.
Yes, she was.
Tom Holland. Child's Play and Fright Night's Tom Holland did Thinner, and then he did the miniseries Langoliers.
Okay. Yeah. All
right. There's actually quite a few of these people. Oh, you can't count Andy Muschietti for both It's. That's one story.
I know, but they were two movies. I get it.
Yeah.
And then, they just and the Welcome to Derry series is now moving forward.
Then of course Mike Flanagan for Gerald's Game and Dr. Sleep.
Yeah. Gerald's Game again. I mentioned how Stephen King makes wildly different stories, but of course there'll also be echoes. And of course, Misery has echoes of The Shining. Writing isolated in the snow, someone trying to come to save you that's not going to. But Gerald's Game, of course, has a lot of, which will come later, has echoes of Misery because someone sort of stuck by themselves. In that one, literally by themselves, but a person who is can't get out of bed and is in a terrible situation.
Obviously, Bob Reiner and Frank Darabont, but then also Toby Hooper because he did Salem's Lot. But then I forgot The Mangler was a Stephen King story.
The Mangler, yep.
Yeah, all right. And then Mary Lambert,
Pet
Sematary and Pet Sematary 2.
Yes, if that had been, so Pet Sematary 2, if it had been nominated for best screenplay, would have been adapted screenplay.
It would have been best adapted screenplay. Pet Sematary Maverick. All right, that'll do it for Misery. It's been a long episode, so let's come back next week with The Silence of the Lambs, the only horror movie ever to win Best Picture.
It stinks.
Boo! Wait till we tear into this turkey.
Didn't age well.
All right. Until then, everything is possible, but nothing is real. And Shockman.
Shockman.